That's the best start. When he asked me what's next week, and I said, I don't know, we're live. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, founders, to the Elevate podcast, where we help you get to the next level by elevating your game, lifting you up. This is the Elevate podcast with my wonderful co-host. My name is Sean Malone. I'm here with Neil Faramond and Simon Severino. Hey, boys, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How you doing?
Where's the party?
The party's right here, man. The party's right here. Today we're getting into something called sales funnels. If you ever want to know about sales funnels as a founder, this is going to be that open conversation where we talk about everything good, bad, and ugly about sales funnels, how to use them, how to win with them, and everything in between. And next week, we got an awesome topic coming up to be determined. Stay with us till the end. I'll tell you what that's next time in a minute
Depends on
here.
your question, guys. You can
Drop some questions for sure.
here.
This is a conversation and not a one-way street. So please drop a comment. Let us know where you're calling in from and your big questions about sales funnels. Let's get started. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to just talk a little bit about sales funnel stuff. And then we're going to dive into some more authentic questions that you can use in your business today. Of course, I've got the two superstars here with me. So let's just start it off. And I'm going to kick it over to Neil. And I'm going to say, hey, Neil, what is a sales funnel? Let's start there.
Well, a sales funnel to me is a way of generating leads by using various methods that I guess we'll get into, whether that be a newsletter, whether that be a lead magnet or something like that. It's a way of generating leads and sales based on a particular action or process.
Yeah, great answer for sure. Simon, what would you add or subtract or change in your opinion? What is a sales funnel?
In my world, a sales funnel is how to create value on repeat over a lifetime for people. And lifetime can be, a year, 10 years, 15 years. We always shoot for 15 years. But how to create value for people? What do we need? What do they need? In which stage? Who needs what? And how can you create a buyer's journey that fulfills those needs?
Yeah, the definition that kind of rings through my head is it's like a sales funnel is a step-by-step process that guides a business towards awareness, like through the levels of awareness into a buying process or buying decision, and then also helps to bring that prospect or that new client closer to the expert, which is you, right? So you're at the very bottom of the sales funnel at the very end, and they have to go through all of the kind of steps or stages in order to get to where you're at. Now, whether that be electronic, whether that be in any form of communication that you can have, a sales funnel can exist like in a Dream 100 strategy where you're deploying direct mail. That's the first step of your sales funnel, could be an example. Or the more common one is where you have a landing page for a website. Somebody goes to this website, this is the top of your funnel and has one big headline, and then you click a button, you start going through the steps. And so a sales funnel really is all it is a kind of, I consider them tools to help educate potential prospects to become clients. So that's what I would say. The way that I kind of think about sales funnels, and again, I'm going to come back to you guys because there's some cool things I want to like. First of all, they simplify a journey for a customer. Like that's very important. That's one of the things they do. They help focus effort on converting leads into sales, kind of like we talked about. One thing that's great about building funnels with tech is that you can identify weak points in the process because you'll know what's working, what's not because of the data that you got. And of course, the most important button, the magic painkiller, automation, right? They allow for automation and nurturing prospects. So you as the founder can continue to do other things. So the simple analogy that I use, and then we'll kind of dive into some stuff with the boys here. Imagine running a coffee shop. Okay, so if you're running a coffee shop, what would a funnel even help you do? So the first thing it does is it would give you awareness. So somebody sees your sign outside, as an example, and then they get a little bit interested because they like your sign and they wander into your restaurant. Next thing they do is they get the menu. Right. This is the second step. And then the second step is they start looking through the menu and they're looking for interesting things that they might want to buy. And then they start to consider, right? So now you come up as a server and you say, hey, what are you interested in? What are you looking for? And they start to ask you about your special blends of coffee. And then all of a sudden they know you, they trust you, know, like, and trust. Then they buy a latte from you, right? This is the sales part of the sales funnel. This would be your checkout page, like on your Stripe channel or whatever. And then, of course, the post purchase is at the end. You say, hey, come back in, and here's a 10% discount for your next latte. This is a sales funnel, whether you know it or not. Like, it could be in person. That was a whole transaction in person. You can do it all electronically as well. So with that said, I've got some questions that I want to kind of address with the fellows here. The first one is, first of all, well, Simon or Neil, would you add anything to what I just said?
Nothing to add.
Okay, perfect. So the first question I have for you as a founder listening to this, and again, if you have questions about sales funnels, drop them in the comments below. What is the biggest mistake founders make when setting up their first sales funnel? Simon.
Many, they follow a blueprint that they see somebody else doing, and they assume it will work for them. So let me give you some examples. I see dozens of funnels every week, and they say, well, this guru told me to do it that way. And so, for example, right now, many are told to build an ascending funnel. So you have something free, then something cheap, then something a little bit less cheap, and then you have what you actually want to sell. And they're told that this is the easiest way, the best way for them. They start implementing it 3 months, 6 months, they burn out, they lose money, they lose confidence. It's just not working. And so many times, if something is working for somebody, that doesn't mean that it's working for you. So we run smaller testing of assumptions. From Monday to Friday, we do A/B tests. And then, for example, we find out that for that particular business and team, with their addressable market, with their email list size, with their social media audience, it's much better to go the other way around. So sell the highest one-on-one thing first, and then sometimes add things later on. So it depends on the stage you're in, the addressable market that you have accessible, your email list, your social media followership, and you have to A/B test, A/B test. So the biggest mistake, just taking a blueprint that's hot right now and assuming that it works for you without doing small weekly A/B tests.
I love that answer, and I think it's a very common thing that somebody starts with the guru saying, hey, build a freemium model or build something really low cost and eventually ascend. And then what I find, the same thing as you, like the biggest mistakes that founders make when they set up their first sales funnels is they get tied into, if they built that model, they spend all of their time setting up just the freemium part. And then it doesn't work. And then they burn out because they're like, this doesn't work. And I'm talking about a free product. There's nothing in it for me. I quit. And then they just don't do anything. When you take the approach that Simon said, and you start with the higher ticket and you go close 1 or 2 high ticket deals, now you have cash flow. You can keep selling the higher ticket deals to keep cash flow. And then you can actually find somebody that's really good at building funnels, or you can spend some time building one and testing it, like Simon said. So I think cash flow is one of the biggest things when it comes to sales funnels to think about, right? Like how do you order the products that you sell? And there's lots of ways to do that. So Neil, in your opinion, when somebody's setting up their first sales funnel, what's the biggest mistake they make?
What I've seen from other people who've tried to do this is giving too much away for free, trying to create that awareness, trying to create an authority. So you are going to be an authority on a particular product, whatever you're trying to sell, but failing to then capture the interest, either capturing via an email list or gathering some way of creating a lead magnet to draw people's attention to capture something. So you're doing all this work for free, similar to what Simon's mentioned, not really doing any testing, something maybe working for other people. But I've seen people where they've just basically given stuff for free and they're doing it month on month. And then they're realizing, well, hang on a second, I'm not actually getting any generation. I don't know what my interest is. I don't know who is interested in my product. So by offering something like a lead magnet or a way of capturing either emails or interest and testing the market to see if anybody's actually interested in that, you're actually then getting a way of capturing these emails, capturing people's interest, and then building that list where you can then go on and further sell, or at least try and push out other services and products to those people once you know you've got those email addresses captured and there's an interest been generated. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I've seen, and I've done that myself. Starting off in video production, I've given stuff away for free and not necessarily then said, well, who's interested in this? How am I capturing that interest? And I'm basically sort of wasting a lot of time in doing that and not getting anything for my efforts.
I love that. I think that's a really powerful way to do it. The other way to look at a sales funnel is each step. As you start kind of at the top and you go through each step, the step should, in a sense, essentially should solve a small problem, but then also create the next problem that they're going to face, and then have you continue through the process and solve the next problem, and then it's more money to get to the next solution, more money to get to the next solution. So I like that, Neil. I think that's a really good one. All right, let's move on to question 2. How can a founder create a sales funnel that feels authentic rather than pushy? Simon.
I love this question. Let me draw it. So,
Yeah.
I'll try here. Maybe we can see it. Yeah, this is not very visible. Let me try it like that. So
There you go.
this is a sales funnel from, awareness, interest, engaging, buying, and then buying again and again and again, like you said, creating more and more value. What we like to do is we start here with the one-on-one work with most people. It's the most expensive. And for example, Seth Godin, everybody knows Seth Godin, right? And he was giving away everything for free. He had only free and very expensive and nothing in between. A blog and very expensive if you want a project with him. Nothing in between. I think that's a good way for most people to start. And then, like Sean said, now you have cash flows and a high margin. So you are having fun. When you have fun, you go deeper. You improve little parts every week. When you're having fun and you're going deeper, you're creating more value, so people start telling others. Now you have a little waiting list. Like, you can't take on many more one-on-one clients, right? So you start a second thing. Let's do a group. Oh yeah, you can qualify for my group. And then from the group, now I work backwards. Most people never get there, or they stay at group and it's fine. But maybe 2 years later, they sprint and they say, well, I want to scale this. I want 7 groups. Now, if you really want to scale, and if you are at that maturity level, and you say, I'm doing the opposite of what most gurus tell you to do, now it's time to scale. And now, let's say, do some smaller things, for example, courses, or things that they can implement on themselves. And now, this thing here can be your tier 1, the courses. Let's say that's $100 a month that you're getting from courses. This thing here is your tier 1. You have a group, which is maybe $1,000 a month. And your one-on-one is hopefully 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, because that's, the deepest value that you create. Not sure if it's super easy to see this thing, but in the end, you have worked backwards from something that immediately gives you cash flow, and now you're adding packages, but you have actually not created anything new, because whatever you create here for the people that are paying you to build it. So this is the opposite of burning out, because you have high-paying clients. They just paid $30,000 and they ask you a question. For example, how can I improve my website? Now you improve that website with them, plus you save that as a template for the course. Now there is a module in the course, how to build a website that converts. So you are reusing things, where you are already paid for the next 100. So it's customized for one, but then you reuse it for the next 100. This is how we like to do things because cash flow is immediate and all the time. So you don't burn out. That's the highest risk as an entrepreneur, you burn out. Second, the next risk is you get bored and don't go deeper. But you will go deeper because you are making money and they are happy. So you will stay your lane, you will go deeper. And the third risk, all these funnels can be super technical, super boring, can totally overwhelm you. I was overwhelmed 3 times with those things. And that's why you should do them late in your journey of building a business, not at the very beginning. That's my take so far.
I love that take. Neil, is there anything you would add to saying what can you do to
We had a little freezing. I hope it's over.
make up?
Okay, it's not over. I'm the only one here. Let's let them in again. Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
not sure what happened there. Sorry about that.
We're back.
All right, let's start again. Neil, the question was coming at you. What else would you add to how do you make a sales funnel more authentic versus pushy?
Yeah, sorry, I lost you all there. We disappeared. So, for me, I mean, what Simon said was excellent. I mean, as I haven't got a huge amount more to add to that. But when I started my content creation journey and helping others, I started to offer free discovery calls for people. So I wasn't trying to sell them anything. I was basically trying to answer a question that they had. The question being on the realms of, I have a problem, can I solve it? And without me just diving in there and saying, well, I offer these services, you can pay me this, whatever, I would just offer them a free 35, 45-minute consultation, a discovery call to understand, one, is this something I can help you with? So I'm not obviously trying to push any cost or pricing to this person. I'm not asking them to buy any time from me straight away. I'm seeing whether I could help them or not. And then that would lead into, yes, I can help you. Here's the services that I offer. Here's the course that I may have. Here's a group session that you can potentially join. So then I would work out exactly what would work for them, whether it be a one-on-one consultation or what sort of a higher paid ticket item, whether it be in a course or something else similar to what Simon mentioned. So I was always trying to engage and assist people for free, but with a view of maybe, is that something I can support them with in the future, that they would pay for my time from a consultancy perspective. So that's what I would try and do without being too pushy.
Yeah. Love that. I think that's great. Okay, so I'm going to stay with you, Neil, for a second. And I want to ask this one because I think this is relevant to you and what you're doing. The question is, what role does storytelling play in making a sales funnel more effective?
Well, I think it makes it relatable, right? If you're telling a story that resonates with somebody, if they have a very similar problem, if it's a story that you can convey in a meaningful way that resonates with them, then they will be more akin to working with you, and you can see that that issue that they're experiencing resonates with them. So I think storytelling is very important, particularly with video production and things like that. So if you can tap into a particular issue that they have that's conveyed in a meaningful way through storytelling that sort of resonates with that person that you get that relationship with, and that is just a great way of sort of making that more an authentic way of and sort of
Perfect.
just working
Simon,
with them. We're having a little breakup here at the moment. I don't know if it's on your side as well, but my internet's breaking up quite a bit on my side today. Sorry, Jai.
it might be mine too. I'm not sure. So
You ask me about storytelling. I'm a Mediterranean, so for us, storytelling was most of our history. Written storytelling is just the last few hundreds years. Most of the time, we were telling other people. what happened, who is your father, who is your father's father, who came into our land and tried to take our house. All these things we were telling each other, oral history. And so storytelling is still very emotional, very, very human. Um, that's why, for example, Neil and I were discussing a blog and having a blog, and where is it better, on Substacks or on Beehive? Because storytelling is really the emotional side, and it's perfect for the very beginning of every funnel. It's what sucks people in. It's like Netflix, right? You want to watch it, you want to find out what's going on, and that pulls you. Sean said it's the mechanism that converts to the next step, that pulls you to the next step. When I watch a Netflix show, I don't watch many, but when I watch one, I can't stop. They are designed so carefully. At each end of the episode, I want to know, oh my God, what happens next? So that is storytelling. And if you send an email, that email, the call to action needs a similar mechanism. Now, upgrade to a paid subscription to my blog so that you can find out what it is. You need to create that arc, and there is only storytelling. You have to move them inside and then move them to click and move them to pay. And there is only one thing that can do that, and that's storytelling.
I love that. I think that storytelling should be done through headlines, subheadlines, written text, video, transcript, like any way or how. Storytelling is one of those things that I didn't realize when I first get into the online game, like how important it was to learn how to tell your stories and tell them effectively. And I started studying people like Michael Haug, and that with the Tale of Two Heroes journeys. And then there's Russell, and then there's Frank Kern storytelling. Like there's so many you can follow. And I really truly believe that one of the biggest, most important parts of the sales funnel is not, as long as the technical part works, right? Function first. And then we go through this process of like beautification and actually getting things to convert. And I think like making sure that your story has, the right elements. You got to have a hook, you got to have the story, and then you have to have an offer. And that's the easiest, simplest 3 steps you could have for every kind of piece or part of a funnel: hook, story, offer. Right. And the other thing that I want to share about this is so valuable to remember. Think about a river. Okay. There's all these fishies who are your prospects swimming through the river, right? Your sales funnel is a rock, a big fat rock in the middle of that river, and doesn't go nowhere. Now, your job is to make your rock look extremely attractive to the fish swimming by. So this becomes your hook, whether it's a video or a flashy image or a GIF or something. Like Simon's amazing on this on LinkedIn. Go look at his LinkedIn because his GIF game is really strong. And it hooks people, right? So you got to have a hook, and then the story has to be just as strong. This is the storytelling piece. And then you have to do an offer, right? And that starts the top of a funnel, and then we dive deeper. And each step along the journey always has hook, story, offer, just rinse and repeat. So Simon, I'm going to come back to you real quick. I'm going to say this or ask the next question. What's the single most important part, in your opinion, of a sales funnel that the founders tend to overlook?
I would say the flagship program. Really, the core of the funnel should be your flagship program. What is that? It's your highest margin, highest impact piece of work. Usually it's one-on-one work or a program. That's a high ticket, a 20K, 30K, 40K package. And that should be where you obsess, where you every week you improve it a little bit, because it's your most profitable thing and the thing that creates the most actual transformation. Now that transformation you can then use for marketing. Look, my client just made $200,000 using this, and then there is a client telling about it. Now you have a piece of marketing, but don't spend so much time on marketing. Spend the time creating actual transformations. That will be then a marketing material. So, and also you unbundle what you're doing. So you're doing things. They ask you to improve the website. You create a website module. They ask you to close more on the phone. You create the closing module. They ask you for lead gen. You create a lead gen module. Now you unbundle it. So you save it for your current client, but you create this as an extra module that can be bought on its own. Now you are unbundling, and you remember we had one-on-one work, and then you unbundle the single parts, and those can become lower hanging fruits, things that you can sell easier to more people in your audience. Because maybe only 10% of people in your current audience can afford and want to buy your flagship program. So what do you do with the other 90%? Maybe you send them unbundled elements of your main program. You don't have to create from scratch. You just unbundle current elements of your current program. And that's why I think most of the attention should be with the current program for all of these reasons. More impact and the opportunity to scale it down, to unbundle parts and resell them again.
I love that. That's so critical. For anyone that wasn't listening, please rewind this and go watch that part again, because when you bundle something up and you create a stack or an offer, you have the ability to unbundle that and sell them as individual pieces, which will now give you what we call more entry points into your business. I heard from a really wise man once. He said the person that has the most entry points into their business is the one that wins. Look at Alex Hormozy. Perfect example of this, right? What did he do when he exploded into acquisition.com? He's a dear friend of mine. I've known him for a lot of years. And I knew him when he was sleeping on a couch and he had no money. And then he built Gym Launch and that exploded him. And then he turned it into acquisition.com as his journey continued to grow. And one of the things that he did when he went from Gym Launch to acquisition.com is he started spending an enormous amount of money on content publishing, lead magnet development. How do you get more entry points? And he put blogs and he's put socials everywhere. He has some of the most entry points out of any business I've seen in the online space. And this is why acquisition.com continues to do hundreds of millions of dollars a year, right? But it never starts that way. It always starts with the one thing, and then we start to expand after that. So, Neil, I'm going to come to you for the next one. The next one has to do with a little bit with tech. You're a tech genius. So how can founders use automation tools in their sales funnels without losing personal touch?
I think we had a show previously about ChatGPT and how AI can do that. I mean, for me, I'm using various automation tools to create content for me based on what I'm doing, and then the way that content is then being pushed out to various different sources. So I'm using ChatGPT and Perplexity and other sort of systems to allow me to create my content, whether that be helping me create blog posts, write more authentically and so on, and then automate some of the processes either by automating social posts, automating video uploads, creating some video content and things like that. So I'm just using it in a quite a simplistic way, but I'm just using it to save myself some time and to be able to push out to more social platforms in multiple different ways using different sort of types of formats. So it depends on what people want to use, but there's so many different automation tools now for automating email workflows, blogging, creating videos, pushing out social posts and things like that. So mine is quite simple. I'm just using various automation tools to repurpose and generate my social posts in an automated way to give me more time to actually create the content in the first place.
Oh, that sounds like our topic for next week. Easy cheesy content marketing systems.
Content marketing. That's what we're going to talk about next week. For all you founders listening to that right now, next week we're doing content marketing at a different level. That's what we're talking about next week. Excited about that one. You hit on two things, Neil, that I think are just worth repeating. The first thing you said was using some sort of device or automation or system to help with copywriting. Copywriting is a big downfall with a lot of founders because they think they know what to say and how to say it. They've read a book, they've studied, they might have been to a course or even hired a coach in copywriting. but yet they still have this unsurety. So I think using a tech that can help to guide you with copywriting is important. But I also think copywriting is one of the most important skills that you can ever develop as a founder. In the first one we talked about was storytelling. You got to be a good storyteller, right? You got to also learn how to write really good sales copy. And then you mentioned the second thing, Neil, was a follow-up system, right? Emails are an easy place in any sales funnel to automate with any sort of tech out there. And as long as you have the right words and your emails are personal enough and they feel good, like people will continue consuming your stuff and moving in your direction. So I think two things there. We said, get good at copywriting, get good at storytelling, and then use some sort of automation or tech to do things like email follow-up. You could do, there's lots of cool things that you could do. Simon, would you add anything in terms of like automation to funnels that we missed?
No, I'm looking forward to next week where I can double click into it and ask Neil a ton of questions. And
Yeah, me too. That'll be good. All right, so the next one's gonna come to you, Simon. Simon, this one we're wrapping up here and we're getting into our lightning round in just 1 second. You have a really great ability of talking about pricing power. Pricing power is a big thing, especially when it comes to sales funnels. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, how do sales funnels differ for high ticket versus low ticket? Let's start there, and then I'll ask my second question.
high ticket is a transformation game. Low ticket is a volume game. That's the main difference. So I used to teach in MBAs at business schools, executive MBAs, and we would have them run through simulations if they change the price, if they change suppliers, if they change governance, if they change market structure. What happens when you change a single variable in your business? And we would have them be in this simulation and run businesses against each other and compete against each other. And after 8 hours of simulation, I would ask everybody, those are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and I would ask them, what did you learn from the simulation? And there was one learning that they said every single time. And they said, different industries, 14 different industries, CEOs of companies. And they said, my main learning from the simulation, Simon, is the best strategy is either to be the cheapest and go for volume and cost control, or be the best and go for pricing power. Avoid everything in between. Because many of them tried to be both. Let me be the best and cheaper than the others. They failed miserably because if you are going to be the cheapest, you need the most volume and you need to obsess about cost control. Every cent, you have to save it. And when you go for being the best, you are going for high margins. You don't care about cost control. You can afford whatever you want. You are overflowing with cash flow and you have a low volume. You even limit the volume. For example, Hermes or Ferrari or San Lorenzo, they say, oh, you want 100 pieces, I'm going to build 99 and increase the price. That's a high ticket strategy. Limit supply, stay with demand. And a low ticket strategy means I sell you something for 29 bucks, but now I need 1,000 people every month joining. Otherwise, it's not worth my time. So it's volume versus actual transformation. That's the main difference. So if you have a small audience, don't even go for cheap. Go for very expensive because it's the easiest thing for you to become the best at. You will have to be either the best or the cheapest. And you need an audience that's big like Alex Hormoz's audience if you want to go for the cheapest. So most people don't have that.
No, most people don't. When I was building my electronics company, I took it from 250K to 8.5 million a year in revenue. And the reason I did that is because I followed what Simon just laid out for you. What my company did at the time was we made circuit boards. So we'd buy the raw bare card, and then my systems, my machines would populate all the little parts on the circuit board. Then it would get cooked in an oven, then it would get tested and then shipped out to a customer. So like that's a very simplified version of it. And the reason we became one of the leaders in the space is because what we did is we said the model we're going after is what we call high mix of product, very low volume. right? That's the same thing as being the best in one particular niche or space, because we were building things like gold finding equipment. We'd make 5 prototypes, and then, or we'd build like a cryogenic laser guidance system for a Raytheon tank. We'd build maybe like 10 of them, right? And so for those types of things, which is a very like high mix, low volume type model, we could charge out of our backsides, right? Like we could charge a lot of money. And in my case in point is I was making circuit boards about as big as an iPhone, and I was charging about $45,000 for something that cost maybe $6,000 to build. So that's the type of margins that you can get into when you're doing like a high mix, low volume, and you're going for being the best in one niche. Then what happened is when that business got sold, they wanted to shift the model to a mid-volume, mid-mix, where we're now making like power components for cell phones, and we're starting to make lots of those things. Well, now we're getting commoditized, meaning there's a lot of companies that do this, and now we started to get beat up on price. And this was kind of some of the demise of what happened after that business was sold a little bit for that piece. So just a story there to kind of like emphasize the point is if you choose the high price thing first, you're going to do very well, especially if you have a lower size of an audience, right? Okay, let's go to one last question here for Simon, and then we're going to dive into our lightning round. Simon, the question is the value. In fact, this will be for both of you guys, but the value stack compared to the price point. What should the exchange be? Say, example, you're building a sales funnel and you say, hey, the value is this, but the price is this. How do you determine that number? What does that feel like, look like, sound like?
I go for 10x. It's easy to remember. And so if you are helping somebody save $30,000, why not price it as 1/10 of that? If you are helping somebody add 200K to their life, why not price it at 1/10 of that? I think 10x is always a good rule of thumb. Value versus price. This is how I think. It's not always applicable, but in general, it has helped.
Easy answer there. Neil, is there anything you'd add to that? Like value versus price?
I mean, I obviously like Simon's answer. From my perspective, when I'm trying to deliver value and whatever that service might be to me, I always think about how much is this saving my customer in terms of time. So my service is valuable to them because I am saving them X amount of time, and that time to them may mean, X amount of money. What money are they saving by me doing a particular part of the project work for them instead of them having to learn it and do it themselves? So I try and look at what value I am providing and how much in terms of monetary value is that saving them. Whether that be a 10x or a 5x, that would depend on the customer and the type of work I'm doing. But it's always, in my view, a rule of thumb in looking at how much time and money am I saving that particular client, and then I can associate my sort of value and my worth with that in terms of pricing.
Totally. And if you're just getting started as a founder out there and you're like, I don't know how much I can transform someone's life, take on 1 or 2 clients for free and work with them for 6 months and get them a big ass result. And then you'll know, oh, hey, I just created $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000 or $1 million in revenue for these guys. Now you know, oh, I just created $1 million in the past 6 months for them. Well, I'm going to charge $100,000 for the service, right? That's how you can very quickly get to that 10x. And just to validate the idea here, when I was in Russell Brunson's inner circle, a dear friend of mine, he said the exact same thing. So what Simon is telling you is the fact coming from other giants in the space. So like it's a 10x exchange of value to price is like right where you should start. Okay, let's move into the lightning round. That was the main content here. The lightning round is very simple. We're going to go through each 3 of us here. And we're going to say, if you had to build a funnel from scratch, a sales funnel from scratch today, starting from nothing, right? What's the tech you would use and how would you set it up?
Who goes first?
Neil. Yeah, Neil, go first.
The tech I would use and how I would set it up. I think for me, how I started is I created a simple digital download to solve a problem for various people that I was seeing within my area of video production. And I simply put that on a free site, either Buy Me a Coffee or something like that, whereby it was a paid for digital download. And then I just basically used YouTube and all the other services that are free and available to advertise that fact. So it's a free service that allows me to put my digital download. They take a very small percentage of any profit that I make from that. And it was just a very simple, easy lead magnet for me to get started using very free, easy to use tools.
And then once
That was it.
they've invested in that tool, Neil, like what is the next step in your sales funnel for that method?
Well, from then, I'm capturing emails from each of those digital downloads that have been created. I then have I have a list of people that I can then contact and then look to upsell various different services that I offer. So, hey, you've got this digital download from me, but did you know that I do these services as well? And showcase some of the work that I've done. And basically just taking that sort of email list, I was able to then generate further business from that. So it's important to have a lead
You driving a
magnet,
conversation
maybe
like
for
a
free,
call?
or even if it's at a small cost. Yes. Yeah. And we're broken up again.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're back.
All right. So as I hear it, it goes kind of like, sorry, I'm here. So free lead magnet to get their email to book a call. That would be your sales funnel, correct? Perfect.
Yeah. Or a digital download,
Simon,
something
your
that
turn.
would solve a
If you had to build
problem
a
or
sales funnel
for a small fee.
Sorry.
Very similar to Neil.
Perfect. Simon, your turn.
Very similar to Neil. I would start with a one-on-one work. And then from there, unbundle down, one part will become a lead magnet. So you remember we have these elements in there that you are doing anyways with your one-on-one paid work. And so I save it, but I also unbundle it. I would use Kajabi and save those modules because then they are you can sell them from your website directly as a program or as a course. So you are unbundle them down as a smaller program. That smaller program can be a downsell for people that you meet who want to work with you, but they cannot afford it. So you can send them just the modules. And then how do you get more people to see the modules? You unbundle again a part of the module, and that becomes a lead magnet that people can download. When I've done that, that probably took me a year to build it and to refine it. In the second year, I would go, wow, now let's bring even more people in. So I would start a newsletter, a blog, a YouTube channel. I would go live on X with, again, those sub-modules. So unbundling even more and more and making many, many, many entry points out there and having fun with that, reusing them everywhere. But we started from the core flagship program. So it never created like a burnout feeling. It was more like, okay, something's working now, let's reuse it as a smaller additional thing.
I love that. I think that's amazing. A great model there too. Multiple entry points to lead people through the journey. I think that's cool. If I was to build a sales funnel from scratch today, there's probably 3 different texts that I would use. First of all, I would use FlowChat on the front end. This would be the kind of the top of my funnel. What FlowChat does is it helps founders to find, connect, and close deals through the DMs. Since that's what I'm going to be selling, that's how I want to start my sales funnel. So I'm going to use our software to bring people into this funnel. And then the type of funnel that I'm going to choose to build is a webinar funnel because I want to sell one to many. That's one of the fastest ways to grow any type of software business. So like as I'm looking at my business, I'm evaluating what type of funnel should I be building, and then the webinar funnel is the one that's going to make the most sense for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use FlowChat to drive people to a landing page, and the landing page can be built in there's a lot of different funnel building softwares out there. ClickFunnels is one of them. Go High Level is another one. There's like a million more beyond that. So I choose one of these types of companies, and I would build a very simple, probably like 2-step funnel. One would be a registration page. So now I'm using FlowChat to drive people to the registration page. They register for the webinar. Then I'm using automated emails and SMSs and DMs to remind them of when this live webinar is going to be. And then they would show up to the live webinar. I would do the whole presentation. And at the end, there'd be a buy link. That buy link would go right to my Stripe account. That'd be the third tech that I would use in that system. So if I was building from scratch, I use Flowchat on the front end to bring all the traffic into a funnel that I would build for a webinar. It'd be a 2-page funnel, basically register and then watch the webinar. And then at the end of the webinar, they could go to Stripe and they could buy something. Now, if you look at Dan Henry, you look at Alex Hormozi, you look at Russell Brunson, you look at all these big players, that is where a lot of them started and crushed it. Russell always says you're one funnel away. This is true, but what most people forget is that once you start building the one funnel, it takes an enormous 10x the amount of time, energy, blood, sweat, tears, money, everything into that to get that one funnel away from actually doing the thing that you want to do. And that's the part that they don't really share too much. So just understand, if you are going to go down this path of building a sales funnel, give yourself a little bit of grace, right? And design it first and try to build the simplest form and get it to work, functionality, get the whole thing to work. And then you can go back in and beautify it. You can put pictures, you can put different stories, messaging, words, videos, all the other stuff. Like that's the fastest way that I know that I've seen work hundreds and hundreds of times. So with that said, that would be what I would do if I was building a sales funnel from scratch. And with that said, that's going to wrap up our episode for today. Don't forget, next week for the Elevate podcast here. Content marketing. That's what I'm talking about. Neil, why don't you go ahead and take us home today, man?
Thank you very much for joining, everybody. And like, subscribe. Don't forget to join us next week, same time, same place, for these 3 amazing people on here. I'm not including myself. I'm just going to include Sean and Simon in that. But yeah, stay tuned.
Rolling.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
Even when you are on vacation, discover how 1,000